citizens unless federal or state law prohibited them from doing so. Now, though constitutional carry gives many the opportunity to carry a handgun without a license for their personal reasons, there are instances where Texans seeking employment opportunities need to have a license to carry, but current law does not afford them that opportunity. Texans seeking to serve as an officer, county jailer, public security officer, or telecommunicator must have a license to carry a handgun. However, current law prevents certain individuals from serving in those positions because of the way the word conviction is interpreted. The Texas Penal Code allows courts to place people on deferred adjudication for certain offenses. And if a person successfully
can y'all hear that?
completes all of the conditions of that court's order,
Let me know if the sound is
does
working.
not result in a final conviction. However, that's the penal code. Now move over to the local government code, and deferred adjudications are treated differently for certain offenses. If a person received deferred adjudication for a robbery or burglary of a habitat and successfully completes all of the required terms, while the penal code will say they don't have a conviction, the local government code says they do. If a person was given deferred adjudication for one of those offenses, the state believes that the person has the ability to be rehabilitated. But this is nearly impossible if barriers are still in place that prevent them from providing for themselves and or their families. HB 408 would allow certain individuals who have been charged with a non-aggravated robbery or burglary of a habitat the ability to apply for a handgun license, but only if they successfully complete all of the terms set out by the court and have not been adjudicated to have engaged in certain delinquent behavior over the last 10 years. Now, what are we saying in Texas if we allow a person who has been convicted of a felony to possess a firearm in their residence after 5 years have passed, but they still aren't eligible for a handgun license? I just said people who have been convicted with a felony after 5 years, they can have a handgun in their home, but not to work. Now, these are already narrow circumstances which we are discussing, but it seems reasonable that those 10 years of no incidences should account for something and have a greater role in determining a person's eligibility than the offense that originally disqualified them. Bottom line, if a person can live 10 years without committing a disqualifying offense.
Here's the only problem with this is that, and I support this bill. My only concern would be that we lose reciprocity because we kind of watered down the license. I don't think it's a fear that is based on much, but it's just something we need to think about.
Members, are there any questions? Thank you. Reserve your right to close.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Now the chair now calls Gary Zimmerman. Gary Zimmerman, I see you registered as Gary Zimmerman, and you're registered on behalf of yourself, and you're on the bill.
Can you change that to be for the bill?
You're for the bill.
Yes.
We will make that change. You are for the bill. Okay, go ahead.
At first, I didn't fully understand what the bill was about until she had just read it. So it makes sense to me if somebody has committed a non-violent misdemeanor and they're being adjudicated, deferred, the case is dismissed. By all means, we should go ahead and let them. I'm only worried about violent felons carrying a firearm. I have no desire for any kind of violent felon or anybody who has been adjudicated and found guilty of violent misdemeanors, domestic violence. I don't want them carrying a gun, but if somebody writes a hot check or they get get deferred for something else. There's something else going on. They're being given a break. We need to give them a break and allow them to have a firearm to provide protection, because it is our Second Amendment right. And failing to do so, I think we're getting a lot of cases in our federal courts based on our New York versus the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association against Bruin, and a lot of misdemeanor cases, nonviolent felonies. Some of the courts are coming back and finding that those people have a right to carry. So we got to be very careful about the laws that we have on our books now, possibly being in violation of the latest Supreme.
And the only reason I'm not there today, I did fill out comment cards on these bills. My mouth is still numb and I'm in quite a bit of pain. I just had a root canal finished today, so I can't be there, but I am in touch with Wes Ferdell of Gun Owners of America, as well as Rick Briscoe of Open Carry Texas, to make sure that our opinions are getting heard.
I think you apologized and we made up, but
Yes,
you know, today, you know, not only was I in shock to see Representative Collier with the gun bill, but I mean, just the fact that you stood up and said you're all for it. And, you know, it's a good Tuesday. I just want you to know.
well, thank you. And I hope you have a great day.
Now I will.
You'll hear more from me today.
Thank you. Members, are there any other questions? Well, thank you. The chair now calls John Bulgiano.
Oh, John's
You're
there.
registered as John Bulgiano, representing yourself,
Hey, what's up, John?
and you are for the bill.
Dang, I could have
Is
hung
that
out with
correct?
John
That
today.
is correct.
Thank you. You may go proceed.
I had some initial misgivings about this bill. I came to see, though, that the restoration of rights should be an important part of our criminal justice system. In the case of this bill, the rights are being restored. Someone who, though charged with a lesser degree of robbery, was able to convince the judge and the prosecutor there was hope that they could reform themselves and return to being a productive member of society. This
Hey,
bill
what's up? Hey,
offers
Brent.
them a path to full restoration earned by at least 10 years of life as a law-abiding citizen. It's been quite a few years since my own, sometimes stupid, youthful adventures. And though not caught in this particular situation, I would want to see a way back to full rights for myself. I asked the committee to help clear that path by returning a favorable report on House Bill 408. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions? Thank you for being here today. The chair now calls Jason Hester. You're a resource witness. We have you registered on the bill.
Yes, sir. Jason Hester, Assistant Chief DPS, Resource Witness, if the members have any questions.
Any questions, members? All right. Thank you.
Ha!
All right. The chair now calls back up. Representative Collier.
Thank
Oh.
you, member.
Oh, is there anybody else wishing to testify on, for, or against HB 408? Seeing none, you may proceed, Representative Collier.
Oh, thank you. I want to thank the witnesses for their thoughtful consideration. I want to thank DPS for the great information they provided. They have kept track, and
It's going to be
you know
interesting.
what? As much as I fear,
This is
expanding
Canales
gun
right here.
rights, this is common
He likes
sense.
to say he's a gun owner.
This is common sense gun
He's not.
legislation, and it's something that we need to do in Texas to restore, to truly uphold the rehabilitation and restoration rights for all Texans, and this will give us that opportunity. And I do want to thank everyone for working with me on this and listening, and I ask for your favorable consideration.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions? Representative Bowers?
Thank you, Vice Chair Johnson. I normally have a question for Representative Collier, but I just want to say thank you to you as well for bringing legislation to the body that brings us together. That's one thing that I thought of. And as you said, you can feel a certain way about things. But, you know, I want to thank you for your open heart when your constituents came to you too, to hear them out and to be that vessel to bring forth this great legislation. So thank you.
Thank you. Well said. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Members, any other questions? All right. Well, Representative Collier, thank you for showing Texas that Democrats are pro Second Amendment as well. Glad to know that we can be on the same.
Yeah, okay, whatever.
Very good. Thank you.
1 in a million
All right. There's no objections.
bill here.
The chair here's. If there are no objections,
Democrats are
House
not
Bill 4A
pro
will be
Second
left
Amendment.
pending.
Some might be, but Democrats are
Is there
not.
any objection?
Democrats are
HB
not.
408 will be left pending. The chair now calls, that gentleman lays out HB 4014 and recognize Chairman Murr to explain the bill. Representative Holland offers the committee substitute and amendment. Are there any objections? Chair hears none. Chair Murr, you are now recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair and committee members. I appreciate the opportunity to present this committee substitute to you today. Gang violence continues to be in our Texas news on an all too routine basis. And we see that touch upon the lives of many people in our communities. And our constituents often worry about the consequences of that, both for their businesses, their families, and children. This bill adds a provision to the existing unlawful carrying weapons statute that would prohibit a member of a criminal street gang from carrying a firearm while engaging in criminal activity other than a misdemeanor. Now, the term criminal street gang is an already defined term in section 71.01 of the Texas Penal Code. Therefore, a member of a criminal street gang is someone as defined therein. This bill would modify existing statutes to prohibit a judge from granting a defendant a PR, or a personal recognizance bond, when they're arrested. It will also prohibit the judge from ordering deferred adjudication probation for a person engaged in this offense. This creates an offense that is a third-degree felony, which is a range punishment of 2 to 10 years and up to a $10,000 fine. It may also result in a conviction or revocation of their licenses. And in order for a conviction to be upheld, I'll point out that a prosecutor must prove that the accused meets all elements of the crime, meaning that they have to be found to be a member of a criminal street gang, and they have to be actively engaging in criminal activity, and they have to be in possession of a handgun at the same time. Now, the committee substitute that you have before you changes the term handgun to firearm, which is also a defined term. It removes a provision that limited prosecution if the gang member alleges they had permission to be on the subject property, but it adds multiple affirmative defenses. One, if the individual was improperly listed in the gang's intelligent database that we keep as a statewide database. And then 2, if the information or criteria that was in that database is improper. So with that, I'm happy to answer.
I don't
any
have
questions. And I assume that there's.
I don't have the committee substitute, but they made several changes. The word handgun is now firearm, and there are some defenses.
Clear up. The penal, what's the consequence you were saying was 2 to 10?
Yeah, it's a third-degree
Added?
felony. So the range of punishment for any third-degree felony is imprisonment no less than 2, no more than 10 years, and or up to a $10,000 fine.
Now, is that just carrying, or does that also include whatever activity they may have been engaged in?
Generally speaking, they're not going to be able to be charged for both. But I can tell you that specifically this says that while the offense that we're talking about today would be a third-degree felony, if there's conduct constituting offense under this section, it constitutes an offense under other sections, it can only be prosecuted under this section.
Okay.
So if there's an underlying alternate criminal offense, they can still be prosecuted for that as well. And again, we're not talking about misdemeanors, we're only talking about felonies.
Members, are any questions? Representative Holland, Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. Criminal street gang means 3 or more persons having common identifying sign or symbol or an identifiable leadership who continuously or regularly associate in the commission of criminal activities. That's the definition, but who determines that?
That's the problem.
I believe you're going to have a resource witness that will go into more detail, and if they don't, then I'll try to answer that during.
Will that be with DPS or?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Any other questions?
DPS has bastardized
All
this
right. If
this
there are no further
statute.
questions, we'll call you back up to close.
Um,
The chair now calls Gary Zimmerman. We have you registered as Gary Zimmerman, and you are representing yourself, and you are for the bill. Is that correct?
That is correct.
You may proceed.
I know I'm probably going to get some flack from a few of my colleagues on this, but I am for this because our problem on the streets, the problem with criminal activity is, and them having guns, is the criminals. It's not the law-abiding citizens. We need to take more action against those criminals, street gangs, those who are confirmed, and I emphasize the word confirmed, street gangs and other gangs, cartels, what have you, with the guns. We need to put them in jail and leave them there, in my opinion. They're the problems. It's not the law-abiding citizens. So I like this bill because we need to take more action against the street gangs. We need to have more laws against them. To take action when they are illegally carrying guns and when they are committing felonies. And they are the people.
So here's the thing. Obviously, I support this in the in what he's trying to do. The problem is that under 7101, you know, if you go and look at the statute, okay, criminal street gangs means 3 or more persons having common who continuously or regularly associate in the commission of criminal activities. This is the problem, okay? Even if you're in a criminal street gang, you have a right to write as long as you're not violating the law. The reason I don't really have, so this is what I have an issue with. I have an issue with chapter 7101, okay? I have an issue with 7101 because I've seen it being used against bikers way too often. Who's to say what exactly? It's a violation of freedom of association. And that predominantly deals with bikers. When I was on my supervisory license, I was representing members of biker clubs that had been pulled over for bull crap, Class C misdemeanor type crap, and were legally armed and licensed, by the way, but were charged with a criminal street gang member in possession of a firearm. And we're fighting those charges. So that's the problem with this law, with 7101 of the Penal Code. This has got to be changed. What this does, and the reason why I'm not necessarily opposed to this, is because it adds this section in here, is engaged in criminal activity. So not only do you have to be a member of this, but you have to be engaged in criminal activity. Now I'm going to let you listen here for a minute because I'm going to pull up a case that I want to read to you.
And I have no problem with that. All right. Members, any questions? All right, thank you. Turnout calls Devin Pock. We have you down as Devin Hawk,
Shoot.
representing the Dallas Police Department. In favor of the bill, is that correct?
That's correct.
Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Chairman Guillen, Vice Chair Johnson, and members of the committee. Major Devin Polk with Dallas Police Department. I'm speaking on behalf of the Dallas Police Department in support of House Bill 4014. I'm currently the commander of the Dallas Police Department Special Investigations Division. I'm the former commander of the Dallas Police Department Gang Unit. The Dallas Police Department works daily to combat violent crime, especially the terror brought to our neighborhoods by criminal street gangs and their members.
Listen to the
Dallas Police Department
tyrants
Gang
now,
Unit
folks.
works tirelessly to gather
This is the
intelligence,
tyrant.
document gang membership, and to suppress, disrupt, and dismantle criminal street gangs and their associate organized criminal activity within the city. Dallas Police Gang Unit has documented over 5,600 active criminal street gang members who comprise the 172 active criminal street gangs operating within the city of Dallas. Gang members throughout the state are often involved in violent crime, particularly firearms. These crimes may be murders or robberies to further the monetary and status goals of the gang, or they may be shootings and aggravated assaults to settle street beefs or to protect turf for narcotics trafficking. Gangs and firearm crime go hand in hand. The Dallas Police Department's gang unit, like many gang units across the state, work to gather intelligence regarding gang members and to suppress gang activity before
It's the biggest gang in
In
Texas.
2023 year to date, the DPD gang unit has contacted 25 documented gang members who were in possession of a firearm during that act.
Yeah, and most
Last
of them
year,
were
the DPD
bikers.
Gang unit contacted 78 gang members who were in possession of a firearm during a contact. Those numbers are strictly from the DPD gang unit.
Now,
And the
you
number
notice
of
how he
gang-
says during a contact. In other words, they were pulled over because they didn't use a blinker within 100 feet, or their windows were tinted, or they had a busted light.
Possession of a firearm under the current UCW statute. Nearly 250 violent crimes, including 19 murders, were attributed to gang members within the city of Dallas last year. Gang members must be held accountable for possession of handguns, possession of firearms during criminal activity. House Bill 4014 will assist law enforcement in combating gang violence by holding documented gang members accountable for the possession of firearms during criminal activity. Often our gang enforcement officers will encounter gang members during a nonviolent criminal act when they are in possession of a firearm. Many times, had that encounter and arrest not occurred, that firearm may have been used in a shooting. Disrupting criminal activity by criminal street gang members and holding them accountable for firearm possession before it becomes violent should be the goal. The Dallas Police Department stands in support of House Bill 4014. Please allow me to give my thanks to the Texas Legislature for their continued support of Texas law enforcement. Thank you for your time. And I'm
Truth right there.
Members, any questions? Yes, Representative Hall.
Chairman. Thank you, sir, for being here and for your work in law enforcement and all you do for our community. Maybe you can help with that. The criminal street gang is defined, and in your experience, how did you determine whether a criminal was in a street gang or they were just a criminal?
So everything with documenting a gang or documenting
I lost
gang
my, this
members
is the wrong bill
is
number.
defined. So for for somebody to be listed as a member of a criminal
that's not
street
it.
gang,
Dang
you
it,
have
I
to
lost
have
the
at
bill.
least two
Hang on.
several criteria.
I'm on the wrong bill.
Self-admission could be a reliable source that has said that that person is a gang member. Could be based on dress, area that they hang out, hand signs, tattoos. Have they been arrested and conducting criminal activity with other known gang members? Are they involved in online recruitment? These are all spelled out.
Do they ride a motorcycle?
And does the Dallas Police Department gang unit keep a registry of known gang organizations? And so you're able to, you have like a list. And so if you're dealing with a potential criminal of some sort, you'll know if that person is part of one of those gangs.
Yes, all of the documented gang members in Dallas are documented in DPS's text gang system.
Right. And you think the current statute
An
is not as strong as it
unconstitutional
could be
system.
because this bill would be great because right now someone that probably should be held to a stronger standard is not, because our gun gang laws are not strong enough right now.
Or really non-existent.
Or not existent.
Oh,
In your
bullshit.
experience, my last question, how many criminal street gang members that commit a crime don't have a firearm on them?
Very few.
Right. So we would be able to crack down on most criminal street gang crimes.
Correct.
With this bill. Thank you. Chair Canales.
Thank you for your service. So, I'm reading the bill, and perhaps this is a better question for the author, but I don't know, you may know the answer. I don't see here that you've got to have been convicted of a crime. You just have to be a known gang member. So you could actually have a clean criminal record under this bill.
So my understanding with this is, and I think Representative Muir covered it, was that you have to be in possession of a firearm when you were committing another criminal act.
So I've never been convicted of a crime in my life. I've got a clean criminal record, and somehow you've got me in your database.
Yes, I actually agree with Canales on this.
Informed on me, clothing. I've got a tattoo you think is a gang member, but I've got a clean record other than that. And I've got a gun lawfully on me. Right to carry in Texas. And I committed, and I got a DWI, which is a Class B. At this point, I wouldn't be entitled to, the judge doesn't have the discretion to give me probation on a DWI. I've got to go do time.
That's my understanding of the bill.
So even if I've never done anything wrong in my life, just because law enforcement believes
Thank you.
I'm a gang member and I've got a clean record, and if I've had a lawful gun on me, now I cannot get probation for a DWI. I'm going to do time.
Yes, that's my understanding of the bill.
That's That's all I want to know.
Members, any other questions?
Vote no.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Here now calls Crystal Biggins. We have you down as Crystal Biggins, representing the Dallas County Criminal District Attorney John Crizo.
That's correct.
Because he's a cop, man, because they suck his ass. That's why they're asking
The
him.
bill, is that correct?
That's correct.
Please proceed.
Thank you, first of all, Mr. Chairman and member of the committee. My name is Crystal Biggins. I am here on behalf of the Dallas County Criminal District Attorney, John Crizo. I am testifying in support of House Bill 4014 as a prosecutor for almost 14 years and the current chief of the Dallas County Criminal District Attorney's Office gang unit. I have seen an influx in cases arising from criminal street gangs, specifically with firearms. The prolific gang violence in our city and across our counties, our state is abhorrent. Documented gang members tend to be more violent, they're organized, they're more engaged in criminal activity. We are seeing crimes involving the use of firearms, specifically by gang members, every day. We are seeing gang members who have been able to fly under the radar because they are not yet convicted felons, but are heavily involved in.
And here's the problem. The problem isn't actual gang members, like gang bangers that are going around shooting each other in the streets and you know, threatening people in neighborhoods. The problem is that the 7101 definition of, you know, a criminal street gang incorporates so many people. I mean, it's absurd. And literally every biker club in Texas is likely in this gang database that DPS manages that I plan to get fixed. Hang on, sorry, trying to fix my camera here. That I plan to get fixed because I think it's unconstitutional the way people are added to this thing. Representative Canales makes a great point. You can be doing absolutely nothing wrong and end up, you know, under this where you can't get any leniency whatsoever because, oh, you're in this gang database.
Members, any questions? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Here now calls I'm being
Self-protection should only be removed by a criminal conviction or at least a judicial proceeding against that particular individual. This bill would strip handgun carry rights from anyone who is called a member of a criminal street gang, whose definition by penal code is vague, subjective, and done without judicial
Yes.
proceeding. We talked a little bit about what it,
Again,
what it
though,
is
the
in
thing that I like
particular,
about
but I
it,
didn't see
okay,
in the statute was any sort of judicial
you've got to
finding
also be
where
engaged in criminal
members
activity.
of that group had a chance to.
But
face
the
whatever
problem
evidence
is that
they
criminal
had presented
activity
against them
can be
and
just
was
a
committed
minor
under the law. They're merely
misdemeanor
deemed
because it
in a
restricts it just to
executive
misdemeanors. So it's like Canales said, you know, okay, so
This could be used by
I get in
law
trouble
enforcement or
for,
elected officials merely to include groups they don't.
so I get in trouble for littering, and I've got a gun on me, and I happen to be a member of a criminal street gang. I'm not a threat, and that's not felony activity. I'm not. I mean, am I breaking the law? Yeah, I'm allegedly littering, but does that mean that I now have to spend at least 2 to 10 years in prison because I littered and I happen to have a gun on me, and then some bureaucrat stuck me in a freaking list calling me a gangbanger? That's the problem with it. Now, I would be more apt to support this if, you know, this wasn't here, if we were talking about felonies or violent crimes, right? But the way that it's worded, you know, it's a little bit better because you have to be engaged in criminal activity. But look at what the state of Texas calls criminal activity. Here's the thing. 10 years ago, I got arrested, as many of you know, for carrying a firearm, my rifle, and my concealed handgun at the time, while hiking with my son. What crime was I committing? None. But they found out that I was committing a Class B misdemeanor of walking down the wrong, I was doing the wrong side of the road. I'm sorry, Class C misdemeanor, walking down the wrong side of the road. And then when I allegedly interfered with his unconstitutional attempt to disarm me, now suddenly, instead of getting a $2,000 fine like I did, I'd be going to jail. It's absurd.
We have you down as Gary McDonald, representing yourself in the Dallas Criminal District Attorney's Office.
Oh, gee, what do you think? He's going to support this. Uh-oh. What's going on here? My signal is getting bad, I think.
So my role is to supervise the filing of all violent crime in Dallas County and work with our state and federal partners to deter that crime from occurring and major investigate.
Come on. What the heck? All right, guys, I don't know what's going on here. This is why we record when we go to these hearings, because you can't always count on the government to, the government system to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this back.
Well, what this does is say, if law enforcement has done what they should correctly under Chapter 67, and that you have been properly documented as a member of a criminal street gang. And
what does that mean? I don't know what's going on here. The signals, it's not me. I've got full bars. I'm good. My internet here is great. So something's going on at the Capitol. Oh, was it okay until I started playing with it? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to restart this. I'm going to go ahead and restart this.
Was not properly included in the gang database. That's very important. It allows the defendant to say, hey, I'm not good for this. If the cops screwed up, let me show you how they screwed up. There was a comment about a motorcycle. I'm going to keep riding my motorcycle, and if I end up in a gang database,
Come on. I started messing with it again.
it's not a crime. So I would encourage you to consider the amount of due process this law provides us and the tools that it provides us to protect our communities from some of the most violent people we encounter.
Chairman Canals.
Thank you. Thank you for your service. So I'm going to ask the same question I asked the officer. You're obviously an attorney, seasoned district attorney, felony intake, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I've never been convicted of a crime. I'm an innocent person. I'm also innocent until proven guilty.
That is exactly what the law tells us.
Okay. You've got me in a database. Let's talk about that database. When would I ever receive notice and I'm in a database?
Never.
I've never done it.
Never. Never.
In a database. Can I be in a database without ever having committed a crime?
Yes, in Texas.
Garbage in, garbage out. And you do not receive notice, no.
See?
DPS received audit authority, as you're aware, last legislative session to help clean it up.
See?
But they don't tell people that they're put in gang databases.
Okay. So then I've done something under this, let's say this is in law, I won't even know that you've got me in the database because it's possible to be in the database without ever having committed a crime. Isn't that correct?
It is.
Yes.
Possible.
And it happens.
The vast majority of the individuals documented are
Also
through
possible for
enforcement contacts.
It's also possible for innocent people to go to jail too. So it is possible.
Yes.
to be documented and be innocent and not be in a gang, but be in the database, correct?
It is possible to be in that database without truly meeting the criteria.
And then you won't have the defense until you've actually arrested me and said, I can't give you probation. I'm not giving you a PR bond.
Yep.
I'm not giving you, and then I've got to raise that up and hoping that I've got a lawyer that knows what the hell he's doing, first of all. But at this point, if I've never committed a crime, I can be in your database, and if I've got a gun, I'm legally carrying a gun to my knowledge because the law allows me to carry a
And
gun
you're
to
licensed.
my work, doesn't it?
You can be licensed.
Unless you're otherwise involved in certain types of criminal activity.
Yep.
Right here, if I'm in a car and I commit a DWI, at that point, I have fallen in this. I've never committed any other crime.
If they submitted your case to my office, I would reject it because the DWI was not in furtherance of the activities of a criminal street gang, which is required.
It doesn't matter.
And I like people like you, but I'll tell you what, I've also been a criminal defense attorney almost on 20 years, and not everybody's like you.
Yep.
And
Amen.
And so the problem is we've got to protect people's rights. So the question here is, I think that the bill is well intentioned.
Yep.
And I think that there needs to be some bigger guardrails on it, because at this point, somebody who's never done a damn thing in their life that you may have in your database for some reason that he doesn't even know gets pulled over for a DWI, and now he's going to have to fight this thing.
Yep.
And I understand that you need tools. And I agree with you, you need tools. I just think this thing's a little wide.
I'm with you, Canales. That's a Democrat right there, folks.
Members, any other questions?
And I completely agree with that Democrat.
All right, thank you. Turn out calls. Edwin Walker. We have you registered as Edwin Walker, representing yourself, testifying against the bill.
Good, good,
Correct? That is correct.
good.
Please proceed. So, yes, I want to thank, my name is Edwin Walker. I'm a criminal defense attorney. I've been one for about 30 years. I want to thank the committee for the opportunity to come here and testify against this bill. And there are several reasons that I am against this bill. Now, granted, I have not seen the committee substitute, so I do not know what the committee substitute takes out or leaves in. But I would say that one area of concern that I've heard addressed is that this only involves people who are allegedly criminal straight gang members who are engaged in criminal activity. I don't know if this language of Section 4 has been amended. However, and I've heard that this is only limited to felonies or violent activities or other crimes, and that is simply not true. It says is engaged in criminal activity other than a Class C misdemeanor that is a violation of law or ordinance regulating traffic or boating. So that leaves every other Class C misdemeanor out there. It leaves every Class B, every Class A, and then non-violent felonies that one of these individuals could be accused in to be charged under this law. And that is a grave fundamental error. Another fundamental error is that it extends the definition, it further criminalizes the definition of a person who is in a criminal street gang. And that definition, in my opinion, is too broad, it's too vague, and I believe it also, again, in my opinion, is an unconstitutional interference on somebody's freedom of association. Also, I'm sorry that Representative Canales stepped away, because I agree with his concerns 100%. Every concern he has voiced so far in his questioning on this bill is absolutely 100% correct. You don't know how you get on this gang database. This gang database is actually one of the more error-ridden databases that is maintained by the department. For example, as the officer testified, it can be based upon testimony from a credible associate. What is that? I mean, is that sort of East German kind of talk? Somebody could just simply say, hey, that guy, I know he's a criminal, member of a criminal street gang, put him on the database. In fact, I would say my practice is in Harris County, but I also practice in a certain county that occupies an island south of Harris County, where that police department is very enthusiastic in stopping people who are simply on motorcycles, wearing vests, taking pictures of them, and submitting them to the gang database. And so you don't have to be convicted of a crime to wind up on the gang database. And I know that the prosecutor earlier in his testimony referenced Article 67.203 as a way to get out. That, in my experience, is pie in the sky. It is one of the most difficult things in criminal jurisprudence to have your name removed from the criminal database. And so this bill, while maybe good intentioned, and of course there are all kinds of horror stories about gang members who do carry firearms. I would suggest that we stick to penalizing for the criminal activity they are found to engage in, and not simply criminalize the mere possession of a firearm by one of these individuals.
Members, any questions? Thank you, sir. Chair now calls Jason Hester. We have you down as Jason Hester, representing the Texas Department of Public Safety, testifying on the bill. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Jason Hester, testifying on the bill as a resource witness.
Members, any questions? Yes, Representative Good.
Thank you, Chairman. Jason, thank you. Oh, sorry. You pointed this way. I'll defer.
No.
Are you sure? Sorry about that. We've talked a lot about the criminal street gang definition and meaning. Can you explain? I mean, I share Chairman Canales' concerns about someone accidentally. I don't think the bill is trying to accidentally grab somebody that might be ride a Harley or something like that, you know? And so tell us how police databases work, and are there instances that when you found you make a mistake that somebody shouldn't be on there? Is there a way to be expunged from one that either the police department, DPS, or a judge can look at that and say, well, this would apply to a criminal street gang member that was in the act of committing a crime, and also that regularly associates in the commission of criminal activities? That's a lot of things that have to happen. And I just want to make sure that it's a really good bill, but we want to make sure that somebody that should have another due process and not automatically get thrown in with street gangs. How does that work, and how do you determine when and where somebody goes on the list? And then if there is someone found not to be needing to be on the list?
You don't know until you've been falsely arrested.
Sir, so the street gang database is not in my division in regulatory services. The agency does rely on our local partners to ensure, and they are audited from time to time. What that process looks like to get out, I would have to get back to you on the information of how they do that. I do know we do also get other entries when you've been adjudicated in a court of record as being a member of a criminal street gang. Obviously, that has its different process, and you went through the due process with that on another charge. This difference of what Chairman Canales is talking about. But I would have to get back to you on exactly
my drink coasters
if that is brought up. But I think the prosecutors laid that out perfectly in that you would have to have the act in the bill, and I have not seen the committee substitute. You would have to have all those actions in the bill in order for that case to be accepted.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I guess I just still have some questions about how people are getting into the gang database. And then it sounds like this law would change the level of, penalty if they were committing a crime, had a gun, and were in the gang database. Is that correct?
It's my understanding that you would have to be not only just in the database, but have to be, as the prosecutors talked about earlier, doing something that's in furtherance of that, or that would be rejected upon submitting a case to the prosecutor.
So something that is relevant to a gang criminal activity. So
that's not what the bill says.
I guess that's where I'm confused.
Yeah, because that's not what the bill says.
It sounded like that might be a gray area.
That it is a gray area.
Discretion, and that I would defer to.
There you go, right there. Anytime someone says prosecutorial discretion, vote the bill down. Get rid of the bill. Anytime they say we're going to rely on prosecutorial discretion, stop it. Get rid of it. It's no good.
Under this, if this were to become law,
if you met all the definitions that are set out in 71.
All right, look,
Chairman Canal,
let's go to 7101, shall we?
for always being available. So you said something piqued my interest. So you said you rely on local partners. DPS does when it comes to criminal gang database.
Yes, sir. That's one of them.
And so is there a centralized state criminal gang database?
You notice it doesn't
that
say
puts information into?
associate, if it says associate in the Commission of Criminal, criminal activities.
I do not. I would have to defer to our crime records division and follow up.
The problem is that's not who is being
I don't know
put in the gang database.
But they do have
People who are engaged in criminal activities are not being put in the criminal database. Only those who associate.
The department has a database.
Okay, and where do you all get your database information?
That database information comes from our local partners if they submit it to us, and when the crime records gets a adjudication through the court process that they do have are a member of criminal street.
And I know you said earlier it's in your division, so if you don't know the answer, I'm all right with it. And I'm not trying to get to it, and I got you, but I would assume as big as Texas is, that your local partners might have different ways of determining who's in what gang and logging those people because of departments operating.
Canales is all over this. He is on it.
Knowledge that Dallas has the same criteria database and storing capacity that Harris County does. There's got to be some differences, no differences. They're all exactly the same.
I do not have direct knowledge of that.
I just assume that they're
Midland
a
PD.
little differently in every city. And so I think that's where another problem that arises. I'll give you an example.
I'll give you an example.
One of the identifiers that you heard from the honorable officer that was representing Dallas's clothing, gang signs. Somebody reported you. You don't know. So somebody tomorrow says, we saw Terry Canales. He was wearing blank shirt. He threw a gang sign.
And here's where that is.
That they can do to put me in a database that I'm not even aware of.
Where's this database? Here's how you get put into the database.
And one of the biggest gangs that we see in South Texas called the Cuernos. You've probably heard of them.
Oh, this isn't it.
And they're identifying tattoo as a
hang on a second.
Texas Longhorn logo people use for UT. So imagine getting arrested and the officer that checks you for tattoos, he's in a gang. And so my question is, there's a big question on continuity, on how you get in the system, who puts you in the system, what city puts you in the system, what were that city's processes?
All right, here we go.
And then did they report them to you? What were those reported accurately? And so I think that there's a larger question at hand, probably does require
Let's see, 054. Here we go.
Is how are we even logging these people? How are we keeping this database?
So here's how
those are huge
you
concerns.
get added to the criminal database, the criminal street gang
Thank you
database.
for coming in and giving us
Okay.
information. So once you're in the database, I'm sure you said this already. How do you get off?
So a judgment, right? So you got to go through a legal issue. You have to admit membership. Okay. Keep in mind, this is how you get added into this section. You just say you're in a criminal street gang during some judicial proceeding. Now, or two of the following, and I did a video on this already. I've already done a video on this. You can go search for that. A self-admission by the individual of membership that is made during a hearing, including, if you say so online, an identification of the individual by a reliable informant or other individual. So if someone else just says, yeah, he's a criminal street gang member, or a corroborated identification of the individual as a criminal street gang member by an informant or other individual of unknown reliability. So as long as some individual and then another individual of unknown reliability says, yeah, CJ's a criminal street gang member. Now you're in the list. Now you're in the list, okay? It doesn't matter that you associate or engage in criminal conduct. Now you're on the list. Evidence that the person just frequents an area where there are criminal street gangs. All you got to do is be in the same area as a criminal street gang, and you can be added to this gang database. Oh, is that Rick? Ooh, I see Rick up there. That looks like Rick. I can't tell. Maybe not. Yeah, that looks like Rick. We'll see.
I got you registered. So you hadn't registered at all?
Yep, that's Rick. Let's see what Rick has to say. That's my boy there. That's my boy. But this is the problem with the gang database.
If there's anyone else that intends to testify.
Now,
please,
the other thing is evidence that the individual uses criminal street gang dress, hand signals, tattoos, other symbols. Yeah. So, you know, them sitting there trying to blow smoke up your ass on how these criminal street gang these so-called criminal street gang databases work. Sorry. As a matter of fact, I'm working right now on trying to find out if I've been added to a criminal street gang database because of my work helping to defend bikers who the quote-unquote Midland Street Gang Task Force thinks are gangs. So stay tuned to that.
All right, Chair recognizes Rick Briscoe, representing yourself at Open Carry, Texas.
Thank you.
Testifying on the bill, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, please proceed.
My name is Rick Briscoe. I'm representing both myself and Open Carry, Texas, speaking on the bill. I beg the chairman's indulgence for not having registered. I had not intended to testify until I heard the bill lay out. Both as the prosecutor has mentioned that persons are entered into this database based on a quote reasonable suspicion, which is not even at the level of a Terry v. Ohio reasonable articulable suspicion. The person is presumed to be a member of a street gang without even knowing so. As of last session, multiple Waco Twin Peaks defendants, not one of whom had ever been convicted of anything, were still on such a list and unable to get off it. What bothered me most in Mr. Murr's layout was that the defense has offered an opportunity to refute their being on this list. Well, that's an administrative determination. And the last time I looked into the law, it's the duty and burden of the prosecution to prove the guilt of the defendant of each and every element of the offense. And this has the effect of reversing that burden of proof, to place the burden on the defendant, prove he's not a member.
Amen.
And logically speaking, that just doesn't make much sense either. I share Mr. Kanala's concerns. There are numerous other problems with this bill. It seems the purpose of a minimum 10-year sentence is a lack of trust in our judges. If we think our judges are not sentencing appropriately, we have the opportunity of electing judges who we think will sentence more appropriately. And taking discretion away from our judiciary is not sound social policy in my view. And I thank the committee for their indulgence.
Members, any questions? All right, thank you, sir. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on or against the committee substitute to House Bill 4014? There being none, Chair recognizes Chairman Murr to close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. I appreciate the opportunity to lay out this committee substitute to you. And I also appreciate listening to the testimony of the various witnesses and the points they make. Chairman Canales makes some good points as well. A couple things that I'll note just for emphasis. First, we've kind of overlooked the fact that one of the goals here is not to let someone who's arrested for this charge out on what we call a PR bond. So inevitably, we hear a lot of concerns raised where someone is arrested for a charge and then posts no bond and gets out and gets to be back on the streets again. So one of the goals there is to make that change. Second, nothing in this bill actually changes Chapter 67 of the Code of Criminal Procedure.
And that's the
I had
problem.
a little bit of time while testimony was proceeding.
And that's
so
the
in
problem.
2017, the legislature passed laws creating chapter.
Come on.
Base. It requires that someone be removed after 5 years. Now that is delayed if they're incarcerated or a couple other things happen.
Hello. Hello.
It identifies and defines a number of other terms, but nothing in this bill is going to change that section. Instead, what we're doing is.
Oh, come on.
We're using the existing definition of a member of a criminal street gang who intentionally or recklessly carries a firearm and it
I'm going to turn. All right, that didn't help.
is engaged in criminal activity. So if they were engaged in criminal activity, that alone is enough to arrest them. This simply escalates that so that there is an enhancement both in the available.
Oh my gosh. Hang on, I'm going to go check something.
I'm charged with a Class B misdemeanor DWI. It's now third-degree felony.
As written in the committee substitute. Yes, sir.
Okay, got it.
Is there any other?
Homer.
All right, thank you.
This is why you can't trust Republicans or Democrats. They want to make you
Chairman.
criminals
I like the concept.
based on different things. All right. Come on. I'm sorry about this guy. It's not my fault. This is the way the video is working. Let me try something here. Let me see if I can.
And while I understand and appreciate what you're trying to do with this, that's the part that bothers me. Because you can be identified and on the gang list without knowing that you're on it and committing a prior offense. That's the problem I have.
I'm going to try and
Thank you.
redo
Thank you.
this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Maybe if I refresh it.
House Bill 4014 is left pending. Chair now lays out House Bill 2960 and recognize Chairman Cain to explain the bill.
Thank you, Chair Gann, Vice Chair Johnson, committee members. House Bill 2960 would restore the good faith exception to savings clause to the Texas Penal Code Section 4615. That was removed at some point during last session, but it's something that is a lot for the for open carry and concealed carry. The bill protects innocent individuals from unintended legal consequences resulting from unknowingly carrying handguns in restricted areas due to a lack of awareness of prohibition. The bill provides a defense prosecution for individuals who unknowingly carry handguns in prohibited locations as long as they promptly depart after receiving notice that carrying is not allowed on the premises. This bill maintains prohibitions for those who engage in threatening, violent, or assaultive or disruptive behavior. It preserves current restrictions on who is considered a prohibited person, excluding them from prohibited places. House Bill 2960 repeals subsections N and O of Section 46.15 of the Texas Penal Code and applies only to an offense committed on or after the effective date of this bill. The bill will ensure that innocent Texans are not punished for unknowingly carrying a handgun.
This is what's being repealed right here.
There are some witnesses here that practice law or have expertise related to the subject matter of this bill, and so maybe I can come back up after those witnesses.
Members, any questions? We'll call you back.
Oh, you can tell he's carrying. Look at that. Look at that bulge right there.
Barry Zimmerman.
That's a good man right there.
Barry Zimmerman, representing yourself in favor of the bill. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Please continue.
I am for this bill because I do a lot of traveling. I travel around the state, enjoyment, business, doing my LTC classes around. Not all places that have the .30-06, 30-07, 30-05, all the other appropriate signs out there that tell us that we're not supposed to carry or how we're supposed to carry, have it as well visible like they should. Some of them put it off to the side or whatever. So and some of them don't have it at all the doors. Some of the restaurants I've done my LTC class at, why they let me do an LTC class at, I don't know, had me come in the back door, and on the back door it didn't have the sign. Then they saw me with the gun. They asked me to leave. It was a big mess. But we should have them give us notice if for whatever reason they stack boxes up in front of their signs or whatever, we inadvertently go into the establishment. We as law-abiding citizens are more than happy to leave. Just let us know and give us the opportunity without having to dial 911 and having all the police officers show up and go, hey, wait, you're not supposed to be here. Sorry, just give us a chance to leave and we'll leave. So I like this. This gives us the opportunity to leave when we inadvertently go in and for some reason their sign is deteriorating, is old, is blocked. Some group of people were standing in front of it or whatever, and we inadvertently go into the establishment. I'm more than happy to leave. Just let me know, if I make that mistake. Or why that one establishment let me have LTC class there, that's all different. Okay, but we need to pass this. This needs to get out of the committee, and this should have been with our constitutional carry bill last session, but for obvious reasons it wasn't. So thank you.
Members, any questions? Thank you, sir. Chair now calls Ray Skiffers. Or Skiffers. Ray Skiffers. Okay, we had Ray Skiffers registered for himself in the Sheriff's Association of Texas against the bill.
What?
We're going to put him down as did not wish.
Well, there you go. Once again, you've got law enforcement associations out there that are fighting against your rights.
We have you down as Rick Reinhardt.
This is
representing yourself in favor.
This is why to Open Carry Texas stop supporting the Texas Association of Sheriffs.
I guess what I'm going to hang my hat on is the fact that there's already a savings clause, the airport saving clause, which House Bill 554 was passed in 2015. And I see that as no different from this law that we're talking about now, proposed law. And it is, as other people said, if you make a mistake and inadvertently walk into a place for whatever reason, and you're asked to leave, you leave. And that's, I'm open to any questions.
Members, any questions? Thank you, sir. Chair now calls Michael Belsick. We have you down as Michael Belsick, representing yourself in favor of the bill. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct.
Please continue.
As stated, LTC holders are respectful of the rules and requirements. We understand that, but minor mistakes can be made due to as Gary said, standing in front of the sign as you go in an establishment. So it just seems reasonable that just let us know and we'll exit. You know, it's just as simple as that. So thank you.
Members, any questions? Thank you, sir. Chair now calls Ian Kress. We show you registered as Ian Kress, representing yourself in favor of the bill. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Please continue.
I support this bill as LTC permit
This is-
holders are among the most trustworthy and
This is what's great about these. These are the kinds of bills I like. You know, when I ran for office several years ago, people are like, what kind of laws do you want to pass? I'm like, I don't want to pass laws. I want to repeal laws. This is what all my bills would have looked like right here. What Representative Cain is doing. Boom, there it is. Repealed. Section so-and-so repealed. Section so-and-so repealed. Section so-and-so repealed. That's what I like about these bills. We need more repeal of laws rather than more laws.
inadvertent carry into a private business without an ill effect. For these reasons, I support the bill and request that it be passed out of committee and moved to the House floor. I thank you for your time and consideration.
Members, any questions? Thank you, sir. Chair now calls Steve Woleb. We have you down as Steve Woleb, representing the Texas Hospital Association against the bill. Is that correct?
Oh my
Yes, sir,
gosh!
Mr. Chair.
Of course.
Please continue.
Thank you. The repeal of section 46.15N and O will prevent hospitals and mental health facilities from posting signs to exclude guns from those facilities.
No, it won't.
Hospitals and mental
No, it
health
won't.
facilities would be forced to comply with subsection M in order to prevent persons from carrying guns on their premises.
It does not prevent
Under
you from
subsection M,
posting
authorized
signs.
personnel of a hospital or mental health facility would have to personally confront a person with a firearm and advise them that weapons are prohibited, and only if the person at that point fails to depart the premises promptly, whatever that means, will criminal liability attach. Now, workplace violence against healthcare workers is a significant, major issue in the healthcare industry right now. And THA has supported a number of initiatives
What a
in past
crock.
legislative sessions as well as this session to address that problem. I was particularly struck by some testimony in another committee last week on one of those initiatives, and I'll just paraphrase here. The witness said hospitals are places where we sometimes find people at their best, a time of celebration, whether it be for a birth of a child or getting a new lease on life through life-saving treatment. But sometimes,
Oh my gosh!
fortunately, they are places where we find people on their worst day, enduring physical pain and mental and emotional stress, grieving the loss of a loved one, or experiencing a mental
And this doesn't change that.
health crisis. And this goes not only for the patient, but their loved ones surrounding them. You know, sometimes hospitals and mental health facilities are places of healing. Other times,
Freaking signal today. Do we have storms outside?
hospitals and mental health facility personnel should not be required to divert their attention from critical patient care duties to personally confront a person carrying a handgun on the premises of a place where guns have no business being in the first place.
Why not?
A person carrying a handgun should be responsible enough to know where they can and cannot possess a gun. The criminal offense of a license holder bringing a handgun into a hospital premises is as old as the license to carry law itself and should not require an additional act by
It's not a
busy
ban.
hospital personnel.
There is
to
no
make that
ban
act
on carrying
unlawful.
guns into a
For
hospital.
these reasons, we urge the legislature to preserve this sound, long-standing policy and allow hospitals and mental health facilities to prohibit guns in their facilities through the posting of signage. Let's stop guns at the hospital door, as we always have.
No, you haven't. It's not against the law to have a gun at a hospital door. You have to post a sign. My gosh. Why do we allow people to lie like this?
Thank you, sir. Chair now calls Nicole Golden. We have you registered as Nicole Golden, representing yourself and Texas Gun Sense against the bill. Is that correct?
Correct. Thanks,
Please
Chair.
continue.
Oh, gee, look,
Again,
Texas
Nicole
Gun
Holding,
Sense. Of course they're against the
Texas
bill.
Gun Sense, and Chair Guillen, Vice Chair Johnson, and Committee.
Come on. I'm sorry, guys. There's nothing I can do about
Put the gun
this.
to leave and hope that violence doesn't ensue and that that's a safe encounter. This legislation is also a disservice.
I don't know what to do, guys. Sorry. It's coming from the Capitol. My internet is just fine. I'm looking at it right now. It's pinging fine.
Gun laws, unless they've opted to obtain a license and training where they learn about that kind of information and the laws around care.
This is kind of annoying, guys. I don't know what it might be. The weather in Austin. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, let me find something here.
The best I can tell them to do is do an immediate belt face and exit promptly. Technically, they violated the law without even knowing it.
Oh my gosh, Rick is up there and I can't hear him.
As far as hospitals, the THA representative indicated.
Okay, good. I'm glad he's going to bring this up.
Here without a remedy. I would respectfully disagree. Hospitals, like any other private business, retain the right to post what.
Okay, guys, I think I'm just going to have to turn this off because I know it's annoying for you. If it's annoying for me, I know it's annoying for you. Let me try this.
Prohibition, and just like any other business, they retain that right. And with that, I will close. Thank you.
Members, any questions? Thank you, sir.
Someone comes on the property and you've been told, hey, we don't want you to be here with your gun, leave, and you immediately depart. There's no crime has been committed. You remove that defense by posting the sign up front. So if the sign was out front and then I walk in, I would be subject to immediate arrest. I wouldn't get the opportunity to just leave.
So I guess that's what I'm asking. Are people going into places where there's signage and getting arrested?
I am not personally aware of any. We do have that we.
This is annoying. Oh. Let me try something here, guys. Nope, that didn't work.